Hey guys, Marty here. So I just wanted to do a quick video to kind of talk about the things in the new upcoming Lunaria League that I think are very interesting from the reveal video and just a few things I found really cool in the patch notes. So to start off, I just have this paused on the Moonlight Echoes. So these are something that it seems like they're going to roll throughout your Lunaria mechanic in your maps that's going to basically adjust how it's affected. So we don't know what all of the Moonlight Echoes do, but this one here says each time a statue is activated, an additional statue is created at a random location, but the activation area reduces. So I think that's quite interesting. This is shown as a blue text, and I'm going to assume that there's probably purple and orange text versions as well that'll have better values. So then here's like another one. If the number of repetitions exceeds the previous one, an additional moon chest will be created at a random location. The moon chest needs to be activated to open. So we can see there's going to be a bit of variance to your Lunaria gameplay. And for anyone who hasn't watched the reveal yet, definitely check it out. You'll get a fully in-depth look into what the mechanic looks like. It seems very similar to Legion from PoE, but adjusted for Torchlight. So then we've got this harp. So this is what we're using to pull these mobs out. And we can see there's these little materials. They're, I guess, replacing like a talent tree that we've gotten for some other lead mechanics in the past. So like a low tier blue one, we can see this has the effects that the number of statues that can be activated in the current lunar ring is displayed in real time. So I guess it's telling you how many you can actually pull out, as well as just making you charge a bit faster and increasing your maximum number of plays. I don't know how this is going to work with rounding. I'm going to assume that you need to reach a total of +1 maximum number of plays to be able to have 2 activations of your harp available. And then a little bit further here, we can see a purple one. So we can see the mods on it. It's now got 10% charge rate instead of 5%. So presumably the higher tier strings you're adding to your harp, the better the mods on them will be. And this one increases the range instead of your activations. So this one, it has a very different effect. So from the 4th strum onward, if no statues are activated, destroys all remaining statues and summons 1 nascent moon for each statue destroyed. I don't know what a nascent moon is, but it sounds pretty interesting to me. And then past this, there's also some interesting legendary ones we can see. So let's just get there in the video. So here, so this one automates the strumming because, a lot of us don't want to actually have to press a manual bind all the time to pull out the statues. So this one's cool because whenever you're surrounded by at least 6 statues, it's just going to automatically pop it if you have a charge available to pull them out. So that seems very interesting. That's going to make it a lot less tedious to go through, spamming your button. And at some point they also showed one that basically gives you unlimited charges, but every time you press it, it gets smaller or something to that effect. So customizing our string seems like it's going to be pretty interesting in the league. And then another thing here, so the next part of the video, this new mechanic, I think it looks really cool. This to me is very reminiscent of strong boxes from PoE. So to just sort of summarize how this works, basically you'll walk up to this little icon here. It looks a bit like the God of War, or sorry, not God of War, God of Might. And it spawns these little runes. You can see they sort of have loot icons. So we can see 3 gray fluorescent ones on this one, as well as 2 weapon, or I should say gear. I think that sword generally refers to gear. This one we can see 2 gray currency icons, 3 gear icons. So most likely it's rolling what type of loot it's going to give you every time you pop it. And then these have their own compasses that I'm going to get to later. So I think this looks really cool. I love strong boxes in PoE. I've spent a lot of time farming them, and I think this is going to be a very rewarding mechanic. And I also think it looks like a sort of free-to-play friendly mechanic because as of right now, at least, there's no pets for this. You're just going to be running generic pets, whatever the best things you have available are. So this should be pretty promising if you're, like a free-to-play player. But even if you have pets, I mean, strong boxes are just a satisfying gameplay loop. Run up to it, pop it, kill a bunch of mobs, collect a bunch of loot. That seems very cool. We got a little preview of the tree for it, yeah, that's sort of the gist there. This compass is what looks really interesting, though. So what it's doing is it's sort of accumulating all of the loot from all the boxes you open throughout the map and combining them into a giga box at the end of the map. So this one here, it's got a 25. It's saying, I think, that they collected 25 loot tiles throughout the map. And then you're fighting like a much more difficult encounter. And then look at all this loot that pops out. I mean, will it actually look like that in game? I don't know. But I like the look of all those loot beams, and I would happily be looting that for myself. The next thing I thought was very interesting. So Vorax is going core. We already knew this. But they're doing something here where they're adjusting the cards. You're no longer going to get situations where you get one of those legendary cards like these where you have to click them 5 times. They're going to make it so you don't see those when it won't work anymore. So you won't see it on like round 8, where it's literally impossible to get the benefits of it. I think that's a very good change. And then also Vorax has a new compass. We get to see the Vorax tree a little bit here, and this actually excited me quite a bit. So we can see the Vorax tree is relatively small. It's 8 points here, 8 points here, and 8 points here. So assuming you're using a compass to activate Vorax, that's a total of 24 points, and that's fairly easy to slot into most mechanics. Not everything can fit an extra 24 points in, but for my favorite strats like Outlaw, a lot of times you can justify putting in 24 points into a side mechanic like this, and then maybe you're double dipping on some of the compasses you're running. I think this has some definite promise there. We saw the Supreme Showdown. It's going to be the Steel Watcher again. Most likely this boss will be quite a bit easier than it was the first time it came out because they made quite a few adjustments to it. It was very difficult at the beginning of the season, and by the end they had made it much more reasonable. So this should be like a pretty fair fight, hopefully, for this season. Let's see. And the next thing I thought was really cool, they talked about Netherrealm affixes. So what they're saying is that they're going to be changing Netherrealm to be tankier instead of high damage. Sorry, tankier mobs instead of the mobs killing you. Now, we can see in here somewhere, I forget where it is, there's a lot of mentions. Maybe I should search affix. But basically, I don't think that this is enough to change how they want to do it. I'm hoping that it will be. But so they removed some damage mods, like this one that killed me a million times. Anyone who's been watching my stream this season is familiar with this affix. So what it did was it reduced your resistances by a flat amount. So when you're a build that was stacking to 90 max res, going from 90 to 45 res, it's essentially double damage, or sorry, not double damage. It's an insane amount of damage taken. You would go from taking 10% damage to taking 55%. So it's like 450% more damage taken, right? So one of the most deadly mods out there. So yeah, they've removed that, and then they've added a bunch of these ones that make the mobs tankier. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I don't have a great prediction for it. I think that we tend to, especially with Eternity, get such overkill damage outside of a few mechanics like machines, to where these additional tank mods probably do not matter unless you're getting like a bunch of them together. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and maybe it'll make it a little bit easier to run a build that's a little bit more squishy. I thought that was quite cool, though. The next cool thing, so they've added a fluorescent memory compass. It should be coming up here. They did something to the gods, 6 gods or whatever, that people are doing god chest stuff. I didn't do the strat, so I don't have any strong opinions on that. From what I understand, this is mostly a nerf because you just didn't need a compass before and now you will. But yeah, so here we see they added this compass for cards, and actually drones was already a very good strat last season. That would be God of Machines drones, fluorescent memory farming. So with these buffed and new compasses, it could actually be pretty significant. Like this one is increased exclusive fluorescent memories to drop by 50%. And so what that means is like in deep space maps, for example, immolating flame is exclusive fluorescent memory there. So this compass could be very strong, but you're going to of course need a good build to be able to run early deep space. But this has some pretty big potential there as like an end game farm to be going really hard into those cards. Next up, we got some class reworks that look cool. So Torino 2 got some very big reworks, and if anyone wants to see this, you can always check these kinds of things on TLIDB as well as the patch notes. But I like the formatting in TLIDB more, so I'll just look at it here real quick. But so the things that I think are most interesting here, he gets returning proj built in. So before we had to use the stray flies gloves or whatever they were called in order to get return proj, and he's just going to have access to that. And then this node is also quite cool. It allows projectiles to jump off the ground. Now, this doesn't allow your projectiles to hit infinite times on the target based on your jumps. It still needs to have its own mechanic to do that, because an attack that jumps, it can't jump to a target that it's already hit. It can't target that unless there's something that breaks that, like Ice Lance's Magnificent Gem Bounce, which allows it to go back to the target. But I also think that there's some interesting stuff here with potentially getting Fortitude. It can sometimes be difficult to get Fortitude, so that's very cool. And this is a lot of damage. You won't care about losing the projectile range if you're already having the projectile range fixed. And then potentially I think proj speed can maybe extend that range as well. And this deflection node is actually quite strong as well, because it's fairly trivial to get to like 7 max deflections. And that ends up being like a 45% damage reduction against all damage types, damage over time and hits. So that's very, very cool, very strong. The next interesting thing, and I think this is very cool, I most likely will not be playing with it, but they're adding specters into the game. So you'll be able to get these boss specters. And the part that I think is really interesting, so obviously for minion people, you know, maybe you're excited to play with the actual mechanics of the bosses, but what interests me is they've got these modifiers here. So see damage, enhancement, program, physical. And I think if I let it play, it might show some of these. But basically, they showed one that gives like an aura, and there's another one that gives a proj speed aura, which didn't exist in this format before. So you got, I think, 90 proj speed when you're nearby the Specter. And then we can see here there's a new talent on the Void chart that allows them to drop module skills. Now, this could also be a very good free-to-play farming strat. If there ends up being bosses that are very popular as a Specter, you might want to run this and run it down on maps, killing as many map bosses as fast as possible as a sort of free-to-play farm, because you might be trying to get these big jackpot hits on these gems. So that's what really interests me about this, is the potential power we could get from the auras they provide. Maybe it'll be better than an Empower, and then maybe it'll also be a good free-to-play farm. The next thing is that we see a very cool rework graphically to the Ice Watcher. That's cool. Very cool. Oh, is he going to look at the stuff now? Maybe he clicks it here. Yes, okay, so here. This is not... Oh, yeah, the summon minion also grants the user and allies 20% movement speed. So this is just one of 3 protocols that this Specter has. That has some potential. That definitely could be good. If you had 3 synergistic buffs there, that could potentially be significantly better than Empower skill or a curse or something like that. Now, this one's very cool as well. Fixing the enemy corruption res at 10, I think that means erosion. But that's very powerful. You know, instead of having, say, 70 erosion res with like a bad modifier, it's always going to be 10. So that's a lot more damage you're dealing. This one here, it's granting precision aura, which is very cool. Well, precision / agility, I don't know exactly what that is, but it seems very cool. Oh, and then this excites me as well. Chromatic shots getting a rework. This is going to be very similar to like Elemental Hit in PoE 1 now as well. So Chromatic Shot sort of already functioned as a jack of all trade skills. It's all elemental types, it's all attribute types. It's very cool in that regard, but now they've given it sort of a explosion mechanic as well, where when it hits, it's going to cause like a little bit of a boom on the mob. Let me see if I can pull that up here. So Chromatic Shot now, this is the new skill. For one thing, so it's shooting out the 3 tracing skills, but they're now dealing spell damage, which is then forcibly converted into elemental damage. And it's not exclusively the spell damage that gets converted. If you are stacking, say, Cicada Shell, so you're getting a combination of all three elemental damages, those will all be forcibly converted into whatever element it's picking. So it's always getting max value. But then another thing, armor stacking gives a ton of physical damage, and this skill is going to still convert all of that into elemental damage. So I think the potential with Dramatic Shot is extremely high. But then the explosion effect I'm talking about here is this 10% chance for enemies to explode when you kill them with the skill. 25% true damage may not seem big, but that's very nice supplemental damage. And when you're doing things like Dark Surge, where there's a ton of diminishing returns or damage diminishing returns on the mobs, damage reductions, your true damage will still deal full true damage to them. So this is very, very, very cool and potentially very strong. We saw a new mechanic for dots. This looks quite good. It's called Ill Omen. I haven't looked into how this works too much. I have to ask some of my friends who played dot builds recently what they think of it. But it sounds like it'll basically provide a way to sort of one-shot squishy like white mobs with Ill Omen, and then it'll provide like higher burst damage for dot builds for mapping on like tankier mobs. And it also comes with a new curse, which I want to look into this, but this might mean that dot builds are back to being able to run triple curse, which has a lot of potential. It can be very strong because, you're already getting, say, corrosion curse and entangling pain. Adding a third curse and then stealing curse effect, you're getting to sort of triple dip on that curse effect. So that might be potentially very cool or very strong there. There's a few new legendaries. I'm not super hyped about them. To me, they're not super cool, but you can always check them out on the TLIDB or in the video. And then we get to see the new character. And actually, I think this character is very cool. At first glance, I wasn't sold on her, but I've been looking into her a bit more. I think I might start this character. She's very generic. So the way that her mechanics work, for the most part, you're building a tonic. And let me pull this up in the patch notes because it's a little bit more clear here. So I'll zoom this out. It's a bit hard to read. So her main trait right here, you're building an elixir. So they've converted some of the empower skills like blurry steps into elixirs, which I think that they probably should have shown in the video before showing the character, so it makes a little bit more sense, but I'll get to that. The important ones, in my opinion, there's distillate. So if we look at Scorpion Stinger Distillate, this one is very powerful. Let's say we build a distillate out of this. It's giving 1 proj, 10 AoE, and 10 movement speed at level 1. Or at a higher level, it's going to give 1 proj, 20 AoE, and 20 movement speed. And then you build this elixir out of it. You stack elixir effect. So if you're getting 100%, well, now you're getting 2 proj. You're getting 40% AoE, 40% movement speed, and that is starting to get very strong. But if you get up to higher numbers like 3, 4, or 500% elixir effect, it's starting to look like a very powerful buff. And then there's more to it as well. These distillates, some of them are going to be drop only, coming from the new strongbox like mechanic. So I think that'll be very good. I want to show specifically one that's not drop only. So it's currently in Chinese. It's a little bit hard to find. So if anyone doesn't find it, this is one that looks very good. This is going to be available at level 14. So this is most likely what we'll be using through campaign. Maybe you'll also use the restoration steel elixir. We'll have to see how that goes. But this one gives 55% increased damage and 130 crit rating. So popping this on at level 14, when your character maybe only has like 100% increased damage, it's going to make it close to like a 20% additional damage elixir at level 1. Oh, sorry, 36% at level 1. So maybe like an 18% additional damage before any elixir scaling. So that's a lot of potential. That could be very powerful as you go through, and that's not counting the crit. Obviously, crit holds some value as well. But so then what you would do with that is we're going to select a component. We can add 1 defensive component and 1 damage component. So at level 1, we'd be adding, say, 12% additional damage on crit, or we'd be adding like 12% chance for reaping to trigger twice, or 7% additional damage taken every time you activate the elixir on enemies nearby. So A lot of potential options here. Very generic. Can be played for dots, can be played for hits, can just be played to make the enemy take more damage, which is available to literally anything. And then defensively, we could get injury buffer, which is a very nice defensive layer. We can get damage taken from mana before life. I don't really know if this fits because I still can't see mana stackers playing anything except for Rosa 2. But maybe we'll see some sort of mana stacking casters with the new character, just because you'll actually have some access to mana recovery levels similar to Rosa 2. Or we can get Fizz taken as elemental damage. Not so strong early because, you're not going to have your capped resistances and stuff. But later on, once we're capping resist, once we're getting a lot of elixir effect, just all of these buffs get multiplied by your elixir effect. These effects start to look quite powerful. Like, let's say you have a level 5 hero trait here, and you have 400% elixir effect. That means you're taking 60% of Fizz as elemental. And then if you have 75 Ele res, you're now taking that 60% damage reduced by 3/4. So it's a lot of extra damage reduction you're getting there. Or, again, you could do it with injury buffer. You could do it with the damage taken from mana. And it's also affecting your damage you're gaining up here. So it looks really cool, looks really strong if we're stacking elixir effect. I think it seems cool. Her later traits, I don't want to speculate too heavily on what we're going to get out of this, but the important thing here is that at level 45, you're going to get a choice of a way to generate stacks for your elixirs. So for anyone who hasn't used like the HP potion in Torchlight before, the way it works is you spend your charges to be able to use the elixir, and so you need to kill monsters to refresh it or use supports. There's a few other ways to automatically generate it, or a couple of talents or items. But this will give you a way to very consistently be building charges. So we should have very high uptime on this character once we start putting in our utility reagent. The rest of the character, it's pretty speculative right now, pretty hard to know what everyone will do, but I think that the additional elixir effect looks very good. I think that the potential to pick Explode here, this Thunder Dragon scale that you could mix into the special elixir, it looks like there's some potential for that to be like boosting your clear very heavily in the mid game. And then maybe on the late game, we might just stack a lot of life and get a ton of additional elixir effect out of this talent here, Everlasting Nectar. But overall, I'm very excited to play this character. I think it'll have very good recovery and it'll have very good defensive options, and then we'll just have to solve the damage, which I'm sure is doable. In Torchlight, we can almost always get the damage. So I've already kind of touched on the elixirs. Basically, those distillates, any of them that say distillate, seem to be like a drop-only elixir, and they're going to come from the new Strongbox mechanic from divination cards, or fluorescent memories that you get from those. So they seem very cool. Oh, and then here's some of the ones they're demonstrating here. So like Tenacity Do, I think this one will be very strong. It scales up to 6% max res at level 20 or 7% at level 30. And this elixir can basically single-handedly with elixir effect get you to 90 max elemental reses, which is very strong. That's pretty much what we do with the Magi stacker last season. So it looks quite good. Let's skip ahead here a little bit. So they made a change to Vorax limbs. So in this season, Vorax limbs will need to get both legendary nodes from the same legendary. This is a pretty big nerf to some builds and not a very big nerf to others. Like, for example, Rosa 2, where most of the Rosa 2s, especially early on, were getting both nodes from the Tyrant gloves, the crit gloves. Let me pull those up here just to show what I'm talking about. So Tyrant's Smoldering Hand, it was very common for Rosa 2s. Oh, sorry, wrong Tyrant gloves, not the Smoldering Hands. We're actually looking for the Iron Fists. So a lot of Rosas were just taking two nodes from here, this crit damage and this max mana. Or, the int or whatever. But basically, you didn't really care as long as you were getting this crit damage. It's not a huge deal. Obviously, their late game wasn't needing to use this. You'd use something like Ice Drinker's Cage. But if you're killing SS20 with two nodes from here, do you really care that you lost the potential late game scaling? Hard to say. A lot of people do play for the super late game, so fair enough. But any build that was already using two nodes from the same Vorax item, or same legendary on their Vorax item, basically no nerf, which I think is very cool. And kind of a justified way to do it. And their demonstration is Cicada Shell, which is actually kind of a good example because what a lot of people were doing was running this node from Cicada Shell to get the adds elemental damage and combining it with Corrupted Bulwark, which used to have 1750 to 2000 flat energy shield. So it was an extremely efficient Vorax item. Both items were pretty cheap to put on as a draft. And then, you just got this huge power spike out of this item. Now you will not be able to combine those two items. If you want these mods together, you actually have to wear Corrupted Bulwark, and we also see a nerf to Corrupted Bulwark. But I think this is a good change. I'm curious to see how it works out. Another big thing is they said that they removed blemishes. So when you're putting on these ultimate mods, it should be much easier to actually get the ultimate mod you want onto your item. And that is amazing. They've also given us the ability to break down these flawless nerves and all these weird modifier things and then gamble them to try and get a more valuable one. So that should raise the floor on the drops from Vorax and then lower the ceiling because we'll have a better supply. Next, we have a very big change. So hero memories are getting pretty much an entirely overhauled system here. So let me skip ahead to where they give us some better examples. Oh, they switched back to blending for some reason. So blends got changed. This is interesting. They said they've lowered the costs on a lot of them. We can check them on TLIDB. I'm not going to go through them all right now. But if you want to, what you do is you go to craft, down to blending rituals, and you can see all the costs of the materials here. One that I do think is worth covering, Hollow Journey. This is a very strong blend. It's giving a base effect to Precise Magical Source of 20% additional damage taken from mana before life. So if you're stacking Aura Effect, you can actually get very close to or even 100% of damage taken from mana before life, just from this Precise Magical Source that is granted from this belt blend. That's really powerful on Rosa 2, and maybe we'll see it on the new character as well if there's some sort of mana stacking build there. That's quite interesting. But yeah, all the costs have been changed, adjusted. I don't remember the old costs, but if you want to go look through, you can also cross-reference with in-game, get a good idea from it there. Thrice Lucky looks cool. This is triple lucky, so this is essentially like a 50% more damage blend if you have a big damage range. Now, this is an interesting change, but it only affects like very end-game content. They've given you better odds on corroding specifically rare gear. And they've also made the rolls higher. So the spell damage roll, I think the minimum used to be like 130 or 140 or something. Now it's 160 to 183. So when you do hit that T0 plus mod on your corrode, it's going to hit harder, right? It's going to feel better. And you're less likely to get the item bound to you. So this is a good change. I think it's cool. I don't corrupt my rare gear, so it doesn't really affect me, and I imagine most people don't do that before they're basically quitting the game. But now we're jumping back into the memories. This is what I thought was very interesting. So now you're going to do this reviving memories thing, which just looks cool to begin with. So we're getting these options here. New special random affixes, increased base stat values, advances, fixed affixes, young moon lunar phase. Like, I don't know exactly how it's all going to work, but it looks really cool. Apparently we only have one chance, which is very unfortunate. Hopefully these aren't completely annoying to make, but there's a ton of cool new modifiers that are going to come from this. So we can see like revived affix. So when you get very lucky, I don't know how lucky because we don't know the odds on these things yet, but you can get these cool new modifiers. Like if we go here, I want to show one in particular that I think is very cool. Immolating World. This is Righteous Fire. So what this does is replaces your main skill with True Flame Immolation, and what that's going to do is pulse cold damage around you. This cold damage gets converted into fire, and if you have enough cooldown reduction, which you only need 40%, then you'll get 100% of your max blessings back because it's consuming your blessings, and it converts all cold damage to fire damage, and it gives you a ton of flat spell damage based on how many blessings it consumes. It will not be out of the question to get 27 or more blessings on this skill, which will be like 6,400 flat elemental damage and like 51 base skill area that then gets multiplied by your increased skill area. It looks really cool. The steel also pulses faster based on cast speed. And there's a bunch of these for every single character. Every character in the entire game got a bunch of these revived talents, and there's some that are universal. So I want to highlight this one in particular. I think is very cool. So base trait adds a special memory slot for installing ultimate or lower quality origin memory. Base stats and random affixes on this slot's memory are reduced by 20%. So what this is doing is in your hero's base talent, it's giving you another slot where you can put an extra memory on. And if you put a +2 trait red memory there, you're going to get these bonus effects that are all listed below. But even if you don't do that, this is just another hero memory. So that's, more int you're getting. It's extra modifiers. They've added some memory modifiers here that are very powerful, some new ones. I want to pull up some of these. Let's find them here. Where is it? Convert. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to find this in the notes. Okay, here we go. Memory revival. So these are some of the new affix values. Elemental and corrosion pen, or erosion pen, armor damage reduction penetration, max LE res, aura effect, sealed mana comp, fizz taken as a random elemental damage type. If you have this on 4 memories, that's 40% fizz taken as random LE. And remember with the other character, it's pretty trivial to get to say 60% fizz taken as LE. That's 100% taken as LE. That's really strong, especially when you get 90 max res from an elixir. So these look really cool, really interesting. I think there's going to be a lot that we can do with this. There's one other one I want to highlight. Let me see, spell amp. Okay, so this exists for all of these main damage auras, but 100% of the final bonus from Origin of Magus effect also applies to the aura bonus of spell amp. Let me see if I can pull this up in my character, but I just want to emphasize how strong this is. So spell amplification aura on my Gemma 2 this season. I'm going to show with Eliamp. It's going to be a little bit lower on spell amp. But so I run electrical conversion, 47% additional lightning. Actually, I think I might have, no, I sold it. Okay, not important. Anyways, 47% additional, right? And I don't have a lot of aura effect on my character, but I have a lot of Spirit Magi effect. So if we go down to my Frost Magus here, I have 900% Magus effect on it. Now, this is a little bit higher than what you'll actually get from that node because of Superpower and Friend of the Spirit Magi, but all my other Spirit Magi effect applies. So you're probably looking at like 600% aura effect for like a 47% damage aura. That is a lot of damage from this universal modifier. So if things like this are accessible, it's going to be a lot of power we're gaining this season. I think that's very cool. I don't really know the rolling system for it. Hopefully these are going to be pretty farmable. I think that bossing this season is going to look amazing. If you're farming the pirate boss for these memories, people are going to want these. They're going to want to roll these awakens. So it could be very, 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 very good money to go farm this. And then they sort of demonstrate some of these nodes. There's a ton of the nodes. It's definitely better to just go through them in the patch notes, but they look very good. Just skipping ahead a bit more here. So we got a ton of really good UI enhancements. I love the new look of this. This is the talent tree. I think it looks much more crisp. I've seen some people say they don't like it. That's fair enough, But to me, this looks very clean, and I'm really happy. And then the next one, I'm even more happy with. Actually, not the next one. There's some character rewards. I don't honestly care about that. Oh, the new music sounded great. Definitely check it out in the video. Where's the one I wanted to show? Should be right here. The slates are what I want to show here. It looks so good. Oh, this looks cool too, actually. We got some icons for all the god nodes that you can pick now. Goddess of Deception, looking pretty good, looking pretty good. Oh, here we go. Go back. Look at this new slate menu. I think this looks amazing. It looks so crisp. It's so much more easy to see which slate is where. Just sort of, I don't know. I think it looks really clean, really happy with it. I think the strides they've been making in the UI territory are great. More stuff about the music. Oh, some quality of life stuff. So I think this is cool. They've revamped the search engine to be much more accurate and give better examples. That's great. For hardcore players, however many there are in this game, I can't imagine there's a lot. But if you die now, it clears your inventory and gives you temporary stash tabs that you can take the items out so you don't lose everything that was in your inventory. Sure, good change, I guess. We got a really nice change here. So in the past, if you searched for implicit modifiers, it would show you things that had a dream affix on them. And if you're looking for a priceless item, those were useless to look at. And now it's going to actually separate that. And that is an amazing change. Very happy about that. They also added a better search option for like pedigrees and stuff where you can put core talents at least two. So you put that and then you put say I want source. I would add source as a search option here and then it'll show me only pedigrees that have source and have two core talents. Beautiful. Very happy about that. You can do the same with the legendary medium talents. Super awesome. SGMH searching for starlights and searching for pedigrees, so much better. They also made a quick buy option from the auction house, really good. This is going to basically be a toggleable thing where we can, bulk buy these items by just clicking once and it'll immediately buy it. You're going to have to be careful, try not to get scammed, don't click some landmines with this, but a really, really, really nice quality of life. We can also now buy more void chart pages. I'm torn on this. If they're selling this, I hope that they're permanent. If you're buying it for one season only, I think it's kind of dumb. I will not be buying that. But we're also going to get some free ones from the handouts for the season, so good enough. I don't really get this function lock. Prevents you from changing stuff by accident. I don't know. Not going to use it. And then this is really hype. This is really hype. So this season it is their anniversary. So we're getting a drop pack spirit right here. One free legendary drop pack selector, and then also 10 battle pulls, 200 primo crisp. Great. They've added a few more pets into the drop pack spirit thing. There's going to be this Midas Touch event, which looks really cool. They did this once before. I forget which season. But you can basically enter to join the draw from completing in-game events. And if you win, you can potentially get pulls. And if you're really lucky, you can get this golden Torchlight card. I didn't win it last time. Hopefully I win it this time. That'd be really fucking cool. I'd be very happy about that. And then here's another reward thing we're getting from this season. So I actually want to turn the sound on here. You might not be able to hear the sound actually in the recording. Okay, yeah, so they said an activation medium selection pack. I don't think they go into detail about what exactly it's going to be. I'm going to assume that ultimate activation mediums are not included. So let me see if we can see the list here. Where do we see ultimate? I forget where to look at it, but some of these are considered ultimate activation mediums. So like burst activation, tangle, still attack, and perpetual motion. Those were all considered ultimate activation mediums in the past. I'm going to go ahead and assume that those are not going to be an option from the pack. But if they are, that's kind of interesting. Kind of sucks for people who like to farm Missville. But yeah, it's a cool reward either way. And then so here's another drop pack selector. And I actually want to go skip back and look and see if the art's the same. Because it looks like we might be getting two free legendary packs. Legendary packed spirits. Let's see. 7-day check-in. Okay, so it's the same one. So I don't think we're getting two. I've seen people say we're getting two. I'm going to go off the assumption that we're only getting one because this is the exact same art in the background. It's also the exact same reward structure. If we get two, fuck yeah, that's awesome. But I wouldn't hold your hopes up. Then there's the standard like rewards for doing the lead mechanic, new pet. I think that's about all I was really interested in. Some new cosmetics. I think this skin looks really cool. I don't know if I'm gonna get it or not, but very, very, very cool looking skin. Oh, new Dural Torino. I think it looks okay. I kind of like the face at least. All right, and that's about it. So then there was a couple other things I just wanted to cover from the patch notes real quick that I think are really important to talk about. So let's see, on kill, energy shield. There's a talent that was taken away here that I think is very major. Yeah, here, 3% max energy shield on kill, deleted. This is very major. This hard carries my early game on pretty much every character I've played for the last few seasons. Because of this, pretty high chance that I play um, a life-based build. Now, there is a supplementary option. Here, we can get Energy Shield on defeat. It's 0.1 to 0.2. That means you would need 15 of these fates, or buffing their effect, in order to make up for one of those talents. And I would sometimes have that talent times two, so 6% on kill. So it's pretty big, pretty big. And then the medium fate goes up to 4. But it is a big, big, big nerf to energy shield builds, at least to your recovery early on. Something else big, Traceless Pain got a pretty sizable buff. It went from 0.25 seconds of damage over time to zero point 0.4. That's nothing to scoff at. That's not quite double. What is that? Let's see. Where's my browser? 0.4. That's like 60% more damage on Traceless Pain. That is pretty good. And it got an easier roll range. Instead of 2 to 5, we're now looking at 2 to 4. So this is cool. This is cool. You lose some res, but who cares? That doesn't matter. Mana Stacker got kind of minimally touched. Not really any one thing to point to. Oh, this is a very, very big one. So Frigid Transmission no longer resets on default. Wow, what a nerf to my characters this league. There is a noble talisman or talent or skill gem that will fix it. Thin Ice. So noble is the 6th slot. So you will need to run a 6-link frigid transmission if you want instant resets now. Big nerf to cold builds and casters in general because that's kind of what carries your early game. The other thing I want to look at, I did kind of mention it when we saw it in the video, but Vorax tree, very small tree, looks quite good. You won't need this point most likely, but if you're doing boss rushing style content, it'll be very good for it because you'll know exactly where those Vorax mobs are. You can skip right to them and then go kill the boss. But if you're doing more of a full clearing strat, you know, you obviously will save the point here. But I think this tree looks good. It looks very good. So very high chance that I'll try out some Vorax stuff early on in the season. We talked about the Profound node for Specter farming. Seems very cool. There's a big buff to Rejuvenation. This is a very strong buff. So the flat regen on base Rejuvenation has been more than doubled. And Rejuvenation has very low reservation, generally speaking. So it's pretty easy to run early on in the league. And for some builds like Iris 2, getting that access to earlier generation will allow you to run Rock Magus earlier. But yeah, very, very strong buff to this. Maybe we'll see a lot more of that. And then importantly, Precise Rejuvenation now gives 8% life regen per second, which is pretty big. That's a lot of percent regen to just get, and you can stack Aura Effect on top of these. This is a really nice quality of life one that wasn't in the video and should have been. The Great Void now remembers the selections made. So I'm just going to go ahead and show what this means for anyone who's not familiar. So Great Void, when I was doing these Law Bearers, you have to install 3 times. And then I can go do Lawbearer. Now, if I go out, kill the boss, come back in, it's going to immediately have all 3 of these put into the slots here. So that's just super convenient. Really, really nice quality of life. Very happy about that. So then there's some bounty changes here. So it looks like No, this is not the one I want. Bounty gameplay right here. So astronomical orders are going to be more rare when you're doing bounty outlaw. This is a nerf. It's hard to say how big of a nerf this will be because prices do adjust. So like right now it was what, like 45 to 50 FE for a bounty compass. We might see that go down to like 5 to 10 FE for a compass, and then you're making about the same amount of money because you're paying significantly less per hour. Hard to say how this will shake out. And then increased quantity of components. This refers to the things that you need in order to put the weapon enchantments on. So this should, in theory, be a buff to quantity outlaw gameplay, which is the main one that I farmed last season. So that should be very good. And that's about it. Those are the most important things I found in my first overview. I haven't looked into everything yet. There's a lot more I want to look into. I'm going to do a stream tomorrow, and we can all, yap to each other about the lead mechanic. So make sure to check that out. But I just wanted to just go over some of the things that I thought were really interesting from this league. Thanks everybody for watching. Hopefully you saw something cool in this video, and definitely check out my stream tomorrow and come chat. We can look into the other interesting things in the league. And I'm sure there'll be some further updates before the actual lead comes out. Generally, we get some updated patch notes. We get some more changes in TLIDB. So I'm sure there's lots to look forward to. And I'll start doing some practice and sort of working on my plans for my builds following today. So anyways, yeah, thanks again for watching, guys, and hope everyone has a good day, night, afternoon, whatever time it is in the part of the world you are right now.